Hello, Virgo, and welcome or welcome back to my Body and Heart Tower Therapy. First of all, Happy New Year, Happy New Decade. I hope you had a chance to wrap up 2019 to your liking and that you've had the closure that you needed and the time to reflect on that and so on. Yeah, here we go. 2020, no pressure, new decade. But yeah, let's see what shows up for you in the cards. Um, yeah, this is the general reading for Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Rising signs. If it resonates, it resonates, and if it doesn't, then it's just not your reading. Use your own intuition to see what messages apply to you personally and let the rest go. All right. Because remember, it is a general reading. It's not everything's going to apply to everyone. But you will know what resonates with you. Yeah, that's about it. Hope you're well, Virgo. Okay. Almost, but didn't. Okay, we have two now. Talking about that wrapping up of the 2019. There we go, the Ten of Swords with the Emperor as your current energy. Very well. Virgo. The Three of Swords with the Tower as your challenge. Right. That is a challenge. For sure. Now let's see what's your focus. Your focus is the Ace of Pentacles. It's your advice. The advice is the Three of Cups. And it's taking you to the Eight of Swords. Ace of Wands as your underlying energy. Okay, yeah, that makes sense now. Phew, but it's quite an intense month of AC. Let's pull out the clarifiers before getting deeper into this. All right, why are these cards here? So we have the Five of Wands with the Ten of Swords and the Emperor as your current energy. The Four of Wands, which in this deck is called Completion, with the Tower and the Three of Swords as your challenge. Well, thank God for that. We have the Six of Wands called Victory in this deck, with the Ace of Pentacles as your focus. You have the Nine of Wands called Strength, with the Three of Cups as your advice. And you have the Four of Discs, which is called Power, with the Three of Swords as your future, not Three of Swords, Eight of Swords as your future energy. And we have the Hanged Man with the Ace of Wands. Bam. As your underlying energy. Wow, that's quite a month, Virgo. I think that there's a lot happening for sure. I mean, this is your underlying energy, the theme of your reading. And the Ace of Wands, well, it depends always the context in which you can read it. In this context, definitely talks to me about some type of like opening, like spiritual opening, spiritual awakening. Yeah, it may not be your first, it may be your first spiritual awakening. They're unmistakable. Like they bring you a complete shift of perspective, just like the hangman does. And we don't necessarily like them because they're not so much fun. Not as fun as we think they are when we first hear about the idyllic spiritual awakening. Oh yeah, sure, you go on the top of mountain and you get enlightened or something. That's not how it works. Spiritual awakenings, I mean, no, there may be a few people that experience it like that, and hat off to them, congratulations. But most of us go for spiritual awakening kicking and screaming. We just don't want to go through that portal no matter what. But it's here, and the benefits of that are incommensurable, like seriously. Once there's that type of like flicker in your awareness, when you start realizing what's really going on and how things really work in terms of our inner workings and the outer workings, and how related they really are, and how disconnected we are as a people in general, as humans, to our nature and the way mm, the works of energy and the universe, and just our connectedness with each other and the earth and all that. Well, the spiritual awakening usually brings that. It doesn't necessarily look terribly horrible because you have a lot of supportive energy, but for sure it doesn't feel fantastic. If it's not your first spiritual awakening, because there are levels to it, like there's many, like there's a row of them in order for you to get the whole picture. Or for us in general, it's not just you. I mean, it's not that you particularly need to go through more stages. We as humans, we all do. With the Hanged Man, though, I think that there was a long wait, or this type of spiritual awakening, it's kind of telling you that there's a long wait ahead of you. And I think you're coming to terms with that, understanding that things can happen in their own time. And the Hanged Man actually talks about, it's the how's it called, the hanging god, or it's what's his name? Odin, the northern god, hanging from his tree and getting knowledge. But of course, that hanging, it doesn't is not particularly comfortable. But that's how he gets his enlightenment, and he does it on his own. He does it on purpose. There's a certain serenity to that and acceptance. It's he's volunteering to do this because he knows what that he's getting new information and new understanding and knowledge. So he has all the reasons to go there on this journey of hanging from a tree. Yeah. So definitely there's new perspectives coming in, and there's a different perception of time, and there's a different perception of where and how you're putting your energy, and action versus results, and things like that. Also, the hangman talks about the heart opening, like in karmic tarot. The journey of the major arcana is all about the evolution of consciousness, and the number 12, the hangman, is that time where the heart is opening, and when our like ego mind, like the lower mind, the earthly mind, let's put it this way, finally surrenders to the idea and understanding that we are all interconnected. There's that interdependence as we function as a organism with the planet and with each other and ourselves. So therefore, the idea of sacrifice, because the hangman does talk about sacrifice, um, becomes like comes much easier. Uh, Now, the sacrifice can mean many things, depending on your personal story for sure. But it doesn't necessarily mean that heroic sacrifice that need to put myself aside in order to save somebody else or to save the world or things like that. It's more of the sacrifice of the egoic mind. It doesn't need to win all the time anymore. It doesn't need to have its way. Um, it's opening of the heart, so the heart start ruling the vessel that you are as a being, and you can start taking your decisions from them that don't necessarily come from the same logic that seems to work before. And of course there's a sacrifice coming with that, because that's not how society works. Our society is different cultures, different places, different whatever, still work very much by, especially the Western world. Now in the East and in the Middle East is a slightly different and the different applications of it. But in the Western world, generally everything is ruled by the head, right? Like the mind. To have a certain logic of a certain kind, and of course we need to use our brains in order to know how to fit in the society, how to pay our bills, how to do this, how to do that. And yeah, of course you can volunteer a little bit of your time as long as you keep your shit together and pay your taxes. But you can't live just a normal, like a heart, a life truly from the heart in our society, not that easily. But things are changing, I think, and like it or not, things are changing to a magnitude that I don't know if we are actually keeping up with that. Look at the state of the world in general right now. It's there's definitely a lot happening, pushing for change. Let's put it this way. And that was a very long explanation of these two cards. I'm sorry. I think I should stop. Anyhow, yeah, there's an opening, there's spiritual awakening, there's change of perspective, and it's up to you in the end how easy you're gonna flow with that. There's definitely a lot of good stuff coming for you through at the end of this process, but still need to go through it. Still need to go through this and this in order to reap the benefits of it. And just a tip, the less resistance, the easier the process, whether it's painful or not. It's not really the pain that inflicts so much suffering on us. It's our resistance to pain, our resistance to feel what we don't want to feel, whether it's physical pain or emotional pain or psychological torment. But there's definitely, this sounds silly, the light at the end of the tunnel. But you're definitely coming out the other side, and I see this with completion here. But yeah, we're getting there. Let's go to your current energy. 10 of Swords, always a joy. This death of the ego, or perceived death of the ego, as I was saying earlier, with this whole the hanged man and that evolution of consciousness. Well, with this guy is hanging here, I'm sure that he experiences certain types of death. He feels he goes through everything there. We are all still human beings. We are animals. We do have our animal nature. We do have our needs, like I don't know, food, water. I don't ask me how this guy pees, and just doing his needs there. So obviously there's like different stages of putting up with our nature and growing up resilience and so on. So with this Ten of Swords here, it can definitely feel at times like the end of something, like the end of the world. But good news is just the end of a pattern, the end of a way of thinking, the end of something you identified with as yourself, but it was never you. It was just an automatic response to something, a defense mechanism that came in place in order for you to cope with reality and cope with your world, with your stories, with your wounds, and so on. And I think these stories were related to power and authority figures, and they were related to conflict, like how you need to show up into the world, how you need to what power means to you. We are led to believe in this society that power means I have power over you, therefore I'm powerful, or any way that shows me I have power over somebody else or over my own decisions. Sometimes my personal power can feel very different than your personal power in my conception. Maybe I feel powerful if I'm able to um be against everyone. I don't know, having the strength and the power to stand up for myself, but I become a bit of a like the anti-hero or something, and I'm kind of like doing everything backwards just for the sake of it. That could mean power to me. Power could mean like literally telling people what to do, and they are being forced one way or another to do it based on their own concepts of power or so on. There can be so many ways to have to show this, like this a little bit of like strife, the competition, the strength, the showing what you're made of. That type of power. The emperor talks about like the father figure, the for fuck's sake, it's the emperor is like the most powerful person in the whole, in this whole world, whatever that world is, your personal world, your friends and family. Maybe you were an actual I don't know, leader or ruler, or you run a company or whatever it is, that you have your own little empire or big empire. It's not to diminish that, but we all have it to a certain degree. So most of the time it's internal, but never mind that. So yeah, the emperor can he knows how to cater for everybody's needs. He stays in this throne. He's supported. He's overcome many challenges. Look at him. He's like all fenced up here. He's got the armor and stuff, and he seems a little bit freaked out there. All those people that get to power, then the other problem is paranoia. What if somebody else wants the power from me? Wants to take it from me? Well, it's not necessarily how you would read the emperor, but in this context, it might just be just that. Like maybe, the dark side of the emperor is that he's becoming a little bit of a tyrant, and just wanting to rule and to make a show of power. That's what shows up. That's what I pick up of this now. It's not necessarily going to resonate with everyone, but it is what it is here. So I think that this is kind of being taken into consideration now, and that part of you that saw power in whatever way you did is is seriously being challenged and forced to be let go of your defense mechanisms around power. Maybe you have like you really hate authoritarian figures and power figures, and you have developed your own coping mechanisms with that, either by being just like automatically say looking up to them and do what they say, either by being the rebel and fighting against it and definitely not answering well to power, either by wanting to take that power for yourself and like taking notes and see like, okay, how do they do it? But I think like what you're learning though this month with this hangman here and the ace of wands is that the traditional idea of power is not real power. The real power is that when I don't need to have power over you or anyone else, when I am simply in full power of my own myself, my needs, my how do I cater for my needs? Am I able to take care of my needs without having to put anyone else at peril? I don't need anything. I don't have anything to prove. I am really powerful and I have nothing to prove. I'm really powerful when I'm connected to my heart and when I'm able to forgive rather than hate, or Hangman talks about forgiveness too, rather than hate or rather than strife and all that. That's real power. Seriously, like nobody can play on your buttons when you don't crave this power like crazy, this earthly power that we used to. There was those saying in probably mafia movies, I don't remember, where like, okay, every person has a price and just need to figure out what that price is. When you're connected to your heart, when you're connected to your needs, when you know how to take care of yourself, and you're not so craving a certain things outside of yourself, then you can't be bought because you can go with pretty much anything. You don't care. Like how they come into challenge. Wow, this is going to be a long reading. Challenge, the Three of Swords with the Tower, and we have completion coming with this. Three of Swords. Three of Swords talks about what we perceive as emotional pain, but this has nothing to do with emotions. This is mental energy. This is energy of the mind. And the number 3 also talks of the mind. From 1 to 4, you can tell 1 is always about the physical, 2 is always about emotions, 3 is about the mind, 4 is about the spiritual, the passion, that. This is like 3 and swords. It's all mental energy. But it talks about the heart. So it's the way we perceive the heart, the way we perceive our pain and our sorrows and our disappointments and our losses and so on. How do we define it? How do we define ourselves based on our wounds and losses and what we perceive as suffering? And we got the Tower here. The Tower, it's number 7, that's the physical realm. It's when our reality starts changing, like starts changing quite suddenly. And this is also sometimes, like, this is really the card of spiritual awakening. That's how it actually looks like. Enjoy. Sorry. Really sorry. No, but the Tower, like, let's be serious here. The Tower is something that we fence ourselves up in that very comfort zone, and we create some walls against ourselves and the world, and then we can't experience the world as a whole and beautiful flow and so on and so on. We just we have this tower which has always the same wall, always the same stair to go up, always the same windows, and that's what we see. We become prisoners of our own belief systems and lifestyles and all that. We get too attached of a way of being. And the Tower is like, okay, you have some type of divine intervention here to give you a little nudge, to push you a little bit in order to get out of there, get unstuck. And it's not always feeling great. If you've had a few of these, you at least know what to look forward to, but you still need to go through the process, right? It still feels like somebody strikes you in the fucking head. Sorry. And these people here, they're actually liberated here. They're gonna land probably in water. This looks like this in water, but there's no indication of that. So it's usually a really good thing, the Tower. It really is, but we have resistance to this. We naturally have resistance to this. Everything that's coming to shake our world, we resent it one way or another. We want it, but we fear it. We dream of changing our lives, but we never really do. And whenever change comes in, we are like, no, no, I want the familiar. Why is this? No, no, no. Oh my goodness, change. But you see, there's this wheel here. It comes with completion. And this is Venus in Aries. Interesting. And I think that you're completing this cycle. This is also about completion. This is an end of a mental cycle, right? This is an end of a way of living, way of being. And this is like number 3. 3s are about resolution. 3s are about two things coming together to get something bigger. You have 3, you know, it's like thesis, antithesis, and the synthesis. So there's this there's good stuff going on in here. There's really good stuff going on in here. I know it's hard to convince you of it, and actually it's not my job to convince you of anything here. It's more about like a weather report here. It's the energy report. So hang in there, really hang in there. I want to pull a card about, what's this about the... What's this perceived loss? What's this about? What's this Tower ending here? Yeah, I think it has to do a lot with... see, this is strife here. You have the Emperor and that whole power show there. And you had, you know, that can come from what we perceive as heartache and pain, and the stories we tell ourselves around that. And Knight of Swords is about communication, but he's about like pretty pretty angry communication. Look at him, he's up for war there. He's all fenced up, going up at war, telling the world what's true and what's not. And I really, really think that this has to do with ending the patterns related to your aggression, whatever that, how that shows up to you, whether it's outwards, out into the world, you're really going for it, you're expressing it, or you act by it, or whether it's like stuffed in somehow and it's working against you inside of yourself. That can mean outer dialogue or inner dialogue. And we'll see more about that later. Your focus. And I really like this focus because, yeah, as I just said, it's not particularly comfortable what we're going through here, what you're going through here. And there's some serious themes coming up, and you're really challenged to look at yourself and the way you perceive yourself, your pain, the world, your life, your choices, your everything. And it's you being shaken up a little bit. You're called to complete a certain cycle, and as I said, some of us are more or less keen to go for that process. We as I said, we all looking forward. Yeah, spiritual awakening. Sure, I'm going to expand my consciousness. Fantastic. But the process of it, for us, for some, and after a few of them, it can become smoother. But for many of us, it can be really, really intense. So, but I think your focus is the opportunity that comes through that. You're literally entering your garden of delights here, and you are literally seeing like you can reap off some, there's potential for real benefits into the daily reality. into your, I don't know, you're setting yourself free of maybe a very annoying job that's been weighing heavy on you, where there was a lot of conflict and shit communication. Or maybe you're setting yourself free with this tower of maybe a really hard relationship that was codependent, whether with a lover or with friends or with family, where you finally take some space and um unleash the communication that needs to be unleashed, sometimes a bit too much of it, but it still enables you to use your anger, and not as aggression but as an agent for change, as an agent for movement. Anger is a very cardinal energy, in a sense. It puts you into movement. It allows you to, it gives you energy to, can use your anger into action, but the action doesn't need to be aggression. It needs, okay, this is really pissing me off. I'm removing myself from the situation. I'm telling what I have to tell, and I realize I'm not bound to live like this forever. I can change. Things can change. And there you go, you've got victory. You've got victory. This is Jupiter in Leo. So, it's like Jupiter is the expansion, Leo is the self, the inner child, the heart. And, this is actually great. This is fantastic. This is taking you to that place of opportunity and victory. And you're getting out the other side, and you're ripping off the benefits. And I think it's going to happen all together. They're going to tie up. Well, time is a bit relative, especially with these particular readings. We say they're for January, but it can happen exactly right now, and this can be an ongoing process for quite a while now, and it can be sort of a big picture type of description of where you're at, and then it can break down into actions and reactions and so on that can be more time specific. So it happens. Like, a few people had told me, like, oh, I've just watched your reading for the month of June. That's not just the month of June. That's my last 5 years, what was happening in there. I don't think that's the case here, though, because the tower is coming unexpectedly, and when it falls, it falls. So it's not going to take forever for that. But you may have seen this tower coming for a long time. You may have carried this pain in your heart for a long time, and you might have known for a long time that you need to address the where you see power and strive. Funny enough, you're not a fire sign, so you're not particularly you're not one of the most passionate and sorry, I just saw something on my phone. But you may have fire in your chart. I mean, like, these readings, I'm saying it's for Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Rising signs, but obviously only one of them or a few of them can be Virgo. Sometimes maybe they all three can be Virgo, but never mind. That's probably very rare. But you obviously have other things in your chart, and maybe you have a lot of, I don't know, Aries in your chart, or maybe you have Gemini in your chart, or maybe you have, what was this? The Hangman. I forgot. What energy is that? 12's number 3. Taurus? Never mind. So it's and each and every person, even if we can be more grounded or more in our minds, logical, methodical, all that, we all carry anger. It's a normal emotion, and it depends a lot how we work with it. That can be we usually don't have a lot of education about how to really work with emotions. Those of you that have, congratulations, you're damn lucky. If you had a family or a teacher or some type of guidance there from an early age, that you can use your emotions as a guide, and you can use your anger to propel you in a different direction in your life, and you can use your sorrow to understand what kind of like what's not working for you, and to know where an agent of change can come, and you can use this as that and this as that. Well, congratulations to you, but most of us, we don't. So we're like kind of developing these coping mechanisms to not I know, kill people or do crazy shit while we're angry. Some of us don't feel the anger at all. Like really, we're completely disconnected by it, and it devours us from our subconscious, where we actually pull it in, and so on. So I think that you're really, really doing a great job here in this very moment, most likely. We're dealing with that and learning how to cope with this, learning how to use it for the benefit of all, not just yourself here, because that's where you're growing. You're growing into that whole connection with the world, life, the universe, and everything, and understand that we are not an island. We are interconnected. So the Ace of Pentacles is, and victory here, the Six of Wands are a great focus for you right now. You are coming out the other way. You look at past victories so far. Victory is not necessarily in a war-like victory, but more like personal achievements in your personal growth. Take it, everything, anything that shows up for you, that gives you that feeling proud of yourself. Feeling that, okay, yeah, I'm resilient, I'm strong, I love myself, I'm connected with myself, and I'm able to walk myself through this. I have all the confidence in myself that I can take upon myself any challenges that come to me, and I can get out the other way. You see, and this is the Ace of Pentacles. That's going to give you opportunities, like real opportunities, real world opportunities. These are gifts from the universe. You see, they're just like a coin there coming in a hand out of nowhere over this huge beautiful garden. So you have your own little refuge. But refuge not in a sense of escape, but in a sense of place, like an inner temple where you draw your strength from. And that power is very different, has a very different type of flavor. It's the power of vulnerability and the power of love, because we are becoming very vulnerable when our tower of beliefs and habits and everything else is kind of falling apart. We are becoming vulnerable, but there's so much power in that. Trust me, I know. I learned that the hard way, again and again and again. Three of Cups with strength. There we go. You find the strength in connection. This is your advice, though. Do look for your soul family here and soul tribe. Reach out to the people that you know will get you. And I think that this card wouldn't appear here if there wouldn't be. And if you find yourself to be very, very alone and not really being able to reach out to your friends, there are groups like Refuge Recovery. It's a really good group. It usually addresses addiction, but it's not only about addiction. It's really about really releasing ourselves from suffering, all kinds of suffering. And we all have types of addiction. Maybe you're not addicted to a substance like the traditional view of addiction, but we can be addicted to pretty much anything. Escapism is an addiction. Escape through a book. Like in a moment I'm reading like a mad person and I don't want to go to work or to deal with reality. then it's already an addiction. It can be addiction to sports and exercise. It can be addiction to food. It can be addiction to binge watching stuff while eating or whatever, snacking. It can be addiction to people, to just like be always around people because you can't be alone. It can be addiction to pretty much everything. But anyhow, that's not the point. The point is that there are support groups out there that you can reach out to if you don't have somebody that you can trust around you. And those are usually free. There's Buddhist centers and so on. And there's most major cities have a group of refuge recovery. There is strength in connection. And if you don't feel like interacting with people right now, as your advice, do think about the connection in general, the fact that we are literally connected. We are on this planet together. We are all in the same boat. Yeah. If something goes up with the planet, right, really seriously, we're all going to suffer. Maybe not as direct and as obvious and from the same time, but it is. There's always like interconnectedness. The fires in Australia are already affecting the quality of air in New Zealand, and it's going to affect the whole humanity at large because, we are dependent on the rainforests and the bushes and the oxygen and the climate. Climate is a global thing. It's going to affect everything. It's affecting everything. And it's the same with people. Look at the type of emotions we carry, the way we deal with our trauma, the way we take responsibility for ourselves and for emotion is affecting each other again and again and again. And there's that ripple effect. In Buddhism, they say like, well, there's the thing with merits, and I'm not going to go into that. But most of the time, they can say something like, "May my practice benefit all beings." And metta practice, like loving kindness practice, is all closely related to, giving love to all beings and forgiveness and so on and so on. There's forgiveness practice, loving kindness practice, many type of practices, compassion practice. The point is that there is a ripple effect. The more I work on myself and I'm able to really meet myself with kindness, allow myself to be vulnerable, and allow myself to connect with humanity. First, conceptually, we need to conceptualize this first. Yes, we are interconnected. Yes, we are not an island. Yes, I know I have a different body and skin and an ego that tells me I'm an individual. It's perfectly fine. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I am alone or that I am not connected with the rest of the people. And it's hard not to feel like that in today's society, but we need to understand, we need to go beyond that. And obviously you're doing, because that's kind of where you're at, with this whole thing. And you can connect right now to the universal consciousness, and you can feel the connection, because it's just cups, right? But it's mind, it's the three, again, it's about the mind, and the cups is about emotion. So you can conceptualize and connect emotionally right now to the strength of the group, the strength of the many, the strength of the practice group, the strength of the of love, of vulnerability, of people get together and celebrate like this. They need to become vulnerable to each other. We can't be all full fenced up in our armor and still connect. It just doesn't work like this. Armor, walls don't amass for connection. So you're learning a very deep lesson here about connection and vulnerability and joy, the joy that comes when we don't need to fence the shit out of ourselves. And no judgment there. I mean, like, we all doing it to a degree or another. It depends, of course, on our past. And a more fenced up person shows maybe a more difficult past. And there's a lot of this only happens when we meet that with compassion and not with judgment. There's no way I can go through this and meet myself with like a lot of judgment and keep telling myself how can I be so weak or whatever? How can I allow myself to fall apart and have a breakdown? Which, by the way, it's more like a breakthrough for you now. How can I lose it like this? If I'm keeping this inner dialogue and watch out for that. That's not going to take me to this place of opening and love and connection. But you do have the Hangman here, so I think you're getting it. I think you're really getting it. You're getting that you can only meet this with compassion within yourself and in other people. Then enables you to have the same type of compassion for other people afterwards. And as you meet this with compassion, you are automatically connecting to yourself. And as you connect to yourself, you build up strength to connect with others from the same place of compassion and love. Wow, that was long. 8 of Swords is where you're going with this, and power. And this looks like from a castle from up top, and you have all the elements here. Wow, very interesting. This is like 4 of Pentacles, which in the other decks tend to be much more about clinginess and stuff. But I love that it started with power and it goes with power and ends with power. You're starting to learn real power. You're starting to learn about also how to hold on to that when you need it. Yeah, you have all the elements, as I said, like the earth, fire, water, and air. Okay, these ones, air. Yeah, well, you know them. This is the sun in Capricorn. That's power. That is power. And we are in Capricorn season still. We're moving into Aquarius season soon, which is all about this. Because Aquarius is famous for being able to overthink at times when things happen. We can get a little bit stuck in our minds. And I think that now you will have the power to free yourself from there. Whenever you find yourself in the situation of overthink stuff, getting stuck in your mind, feeling powerless, and feeling that you don't really have a choice. And that's a very valid feeling. I mean, like, we can always feel like that every once in a while, or always, or there's enough indication outside of ourselves that we are powerless, because that's what society wants us to feel like, because we need to depend on them. Not to start the revolutions now, but, well, you take your own perceptions and concepts about the world, without the conspiracy theories or so on. But the point is that this is taking you to the place where you can start finally see when you get stuck in your own mind, and when is your mind stopping you from moving forward, from feeling powerful, from connecting to your heart, from connecting to the others. And you're gonna build up a real structure, a real boundary that you need, your little empire is gonna be more real for you. And these swords are going to be less powerful, they have less control over you, because you're not your thoughts, and you're beginning to truly feel that, not just understanding at an intellectual level, but to truly feel that you are not as isolated as you think you are at times, that you have more power than you think you have at times. And the guidance with the 8 of Swords is always, because she's all dressed in red in here, is to go to your body awareness and feel your way out of this situation that your mind is putting you in. And the mind is like, it's growing as well in this process. It may look like it's just like crippling us, but the mind is not the enemy. The mind is doing its best to accommodate all these like great concepts that we are taking in from heart space, from feeling, from all this, but at the same time it's trying to protect us, that we're not getting delusional, that we're not getting ahead of ourselves, and it just wants to prevent suffering. Therefore it's kind of like holding a grip on us, but that's not necessarily the true, and those limiting beliefs that were designed to protect us. So you can start seeing them for what they are, just beliefs. And if you feel into your body, that's where the real information is, and you can set yourself free. And you do have the power for that. You do have the stability for that. You do have the strength that you just build up for this amazingly inspiring process. Okay, an oracle reading, or an oracle card from Rumi, and we're done. Thank you, Rumi. You see what it says here? Enter the garden of delights. It's exactly the same word that I used for this Ace of Pentacles, which is your focus. Number 28. Sorry, I'm overjoyed with the... Okay, it's a really long poem from Rumi. Gosh, this reading is just getting longer and longer. Enter the Garden of Delights. Are you aware that sweetness is found everywhere in town? Are you aware that winter is gone and spring has come around? Are you aware that sweet basil and the carnation are whispering in the garden and laughing about how simply everything is found? Are you aware the nightingale has come back from its flight, singing out messages of love to spread delight with every sound? Wait, there's more. Everything in the garden is granted the right from the divine court to appear for our delight. Everything is here to make the earth green and alive as a haven for our life. What remains buried in the soil will always endeavor to reach out. No one truly alive can ever be bound to a prison or a tomb. Rumi. I'm not going to get into explaining that too much because it's just like too long of a reading, but I'm going to go straight to the guidance and see what this is about. Okay. You have been through much death, dear one. Whether it's literal or this death of the part of something you identified with, and this can also feel like some type of death. Okay, so you have been through much death, dear one, around you, within you. You have known this dark angel. That is why you are so full of life. Your attempts to stay as you have been, to render something in your life immobile or impervious to change, have failed. Exactly that. Let us celebrate. There is no delight in frozen moments long since past. Why try to feast upon such food? It will not nourish you anywhere near as deeply and fully as fresh from the oven morsels of life. Come, let us taste all that is on offer. So come, let us taste all that is on offer. We'll drink headily and state our deepest thirst. Let us enjoy the richness of the meal in gratitude for its preparation and awe at the skill involved in such masterful creation. Do not let the memory of death starve you of your participation in life. Do you hold on still to that which is past? I will soothe you with a loving touch upon your back, and yet gently I will turn your head to the right and urge you to see the rising sun. You see? There's a sun rising after this weird scene. Your life is blessed, you see. I want you to know this now. I want you to accept this now. Let those horrors of the past be gone. They are no more than phantoms. The garden is here now to be touched, tasted, seen, heard, felt, inhaled, and loved. This oracle comes to you with a message. A new day is dawning for you. This is a time when the past will very soon cease to have any hold over you. Celebration is imminent. That's the celebration we were talking about. You are invited into the golden light of divine plenty. Put your worries behind you now and step into your divine inheritance, where all is sorted according to your kindness and grace. Well, there it is, my love. I hope this makes sense to you. it's really a beautiful, beautiful reading, promising and inspiring. And thank you so much for doing this work for yourself and for all of us, really, because we are, as I said earlier, all benefiting from the inner work that you're doing and for your bravery and your courage. So really, really thank you for this. And yeah, may our practice benefit all beings. If you resonate with this reading, long as it is, please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you here soon. Happy new decade.